How to get from this to this. Welcome to the second part of the Clockwork tutorial where I'm going to focus on lighting, rendering, camera work, set dressing and other nifty things. In part 1 I built this cool clock, animated a time lapse using only the minute handle to drive the entire thing. It's easy. If you haven't seen part 1, check out the attached link. Alright, let's create cinematic awesomeness. So this is the second part of the Clockwork tutorial. We will be focusing on lighting and rendering, setting a nice mood and really sell this midnight to morning transition. Let's get through this here. We start with creating a cube to working on a nice shelf. I'm just fast forwarding through this a bit because everybody knows how to make a shelf from a cube, really. So this looks about right. Give it a name, duplicate it, push it a bit in so that down here in this area we have the ability to just cast some shadows or whatever rather than having everything front on and flat. Alright, we're going over to this funky box up here. This is what will cast the silhouette of the window on my back wall. You see already here that I have a texture applied, and I chuck that texture into the alpha channel of this geometry. So right now you can see if I move the camera in the right posi, we should be able to see, there it is, there's our clock. So right behind that alpha now, behind that window, I have positioned my light. You can see it right here. And that will shine right through there. Oopsie daisy, that's a crook line again. Oh, Jesus. Well, anyway, this is as good as it gets. So that light then shines right through that hole made by the texture into our room. Cool. Quickly setting up some textures here. There's not too many textures, to be honest. I like the look of having some wooden shelves or like a bedside table scenario. So this is a really good texture coming from Polygon, so thanks Andrew for that. This is great. So by the way, if you want to have an automatic setup of your shaders, Control-Shift-T, and Blender will automatically connect everything nicely for you. Node Wrangler needs to be enabled. So what I didn't like so much is how the texture is lined up. It's facing me. I wanted to go left to right. You guys know how to rotate textures, don't you? Here in the mapping node, Z, 90 degrees. And then next thing will be that we have to address the front face because that still looks a bit rubbish. So for that, I actually jumped into the edit mode, selected face and just unwrapped it. So now I'm just selecting the shelf below and link UV maps and link materials. So now we have the perfect identical object here. That's not looking good. We see texture repeating itself here and there. We don't like that. So I'm going to select the lower shelf, rotate it by 180 degrees. So the last thing I want to do is darken this wood material that we have here. It's a bit too bright for my liking. So I'm adding a mix RGB node, plug it between the texture and the shader, set it to multiply and multiply it with black. That way I'm just I can use the fade to control how much influence black should have, and that will do the trick. So the next step is to address these two design elements there that are a little bit too bright. Let's give them gold materials. I'm just scrubbing over this. In short, you select all of these elements, then grab a object that has the gold material on it, press Ctrl L, transfer materials, and you set. There you go. This is how it looks in the end. So you just see me here moving it a little bit here in the corner there, moving it through the scene a bit. And also what I do here now is it's just the back wall is just a bit too blue, and that is because we see in the scene here it actually is blue and it doesn't need to be, because we want the moon to be the cold color. and everything should be then just like tinted from the moon. So we have warm colors that will come from this side, and the cold moon color will come in from this side, giving it a nice cold warm look. But it also means we don't need the blue back wall to just double down on that. Instead, I'm going to give this a sort of like earthy tone, a warm gray of sorts. Okay, and so now we have our time lapse here. Right now I'm just figuring out somewhere here is a keyframe, and probably somewhere around here will be the other one. So these are the two markers. So now that we have those keys determined, I want to focus on the composition before the time lapse starts, because we will be looking at this image for a couple seconds before time accelerates, and I just want everything to look nice. So we want to have details where there is none. We have a nice highlight here. There is no information on this side. On this side we can't even tell where the clock ends and the background or the ground starts. So all this needs to be filled in somehow. And we're doing this now. You just play around a bit. Place the gobo, which is this thing here with the window, the transparent window, somewhere nicely, but also play with the light that casts with the moonlight. Here, scaling things up a bit. Scaling it up gives actually quite a nice reflection on this side of the wall, but also we get some nice play down here on the wood that I like, and also the handles here, and that ring element on the clock catches some nice highlights there. So this is all looking really good. There's a big difference between the framing and the actual render frame, because now here we have our this is our composition effectively, right? While if I go here, there's nothing. The green arc that we have in the render is completely missing. So it definitely pays out to, where is it here? It definitely pays out to swap between display modes a bit, use rendering when it makes sense, and then jump back out of it when you need more performance. But yeah, don't forget light and shade, how light and shade and reflections can affect composition. So with that in place, let's just focus a little bit on the warm lights that come in now. I played a little bit with the point light that you see over here, but it's just I don't know, it just didn't quite look right. Like let me quickly scroll forward a bit so that like this is the perfect example of the point light here, right? It gives us nice highlights, a nice illumination. We see that there's light coming from the left, but we actually don't have those highlights that we see from the moonlight on this side, because the moonlight is a area light and the point light isn't. So there's something is lacking there, and that is why in the end decided to just go with a area light. And set that to disk, so I'm still keeping it round rather than having a rectangular or whatever reflection, and I'm automatically getting all those nice highlights here on the handle, in the glass. This is what we want. Quick note, I push this to the side on area lights. Different why I only actually use area lights or direct lights, never really the other ones. So let's say this is my back wall here, right? This thing there. Then we have our shelf with our little clock on there. Now, if I have a point light here, I can immediately tell how far away it is from that wall, because that will be very bright. And so it's very easy to determine the origin of a point light. There is nothing wrong with that. But I don't have much control. It just shines in all directions. Whereas with an area light that faces to the right, it has a limited way to expose the scene, to shine its light, right? So by default, by Blender default, area lights have 180 degrees. illumination, right? And everything behind it is dark. There has no effect of this light, and that is powerful. But what if all of this is too bright for my liking? Yeah? What I can do then, I just have my wall and my shelf again. I can rotate my area light away from the area that I don't want to brighten up so much. So now it's doing this. It's just gradually creating more and more shadow over here, making this area here less bright by rotating it away, right? The other thing is also that I have a spread control over here, and you can tell this is not 180 degrees. This at the moment is at 58. So I limited the cone. 58 is probably something like this. So rather than eliminating everything here, it's just eliminating everything here. That way you have so much control, and you get those beautiful reflections and everything out of the box. So yeah, little excursus on area lights and why I love them. By the way, here's a really cool trick to make it very easy to place your highlights and not having to worry too much about positioning the lights. So I placed my 3D cursor right by my clock. And then with the period key, you can select that this 3D cursor is the origin for your rotations. So when you rotate that light, you rotate it around the 3D cursor, which is by my clock, and the light is just doing its thing. So you just have to check here in the camera if what you see is what you like. And it's just I love workflows that make things easy. That's I love it. One thing that I notice is that there's a bit of like spill coming in the area here. So I grabbed this cube here and used it as a flag. So I just blocked out light down here now. So this casts shadow down here, and that way I can make sure that the viewer is looking this way and not trying to find something down there, because there is nothing. So let's jump into the time lapse. Cool. So what I've done here actually is Control B lets you select the area of interest that you want to render, and I also zoomed out a bit. Because I'm working on the general composition, I don't need to worry about small details right now. So if the composition works as a thumbnail, so to say, it will work in big. And that way I have fast response times as well. So same deal. We're rotating around the 3D cursor, which is down there. And rotate the moonlight now. That looks beautiful. Just finding nice angles there, really. And now we're going into fading it out as well. So as time passes, I want the moon to become less intense. That obviously is because now daylight kicks in. So what we need to do is we need a new light. So let's bring the new light into our scene here. It's of course it's a area light. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a warmer tint there. That looks nice. And just determine the frames. So just the light will be animated as well. You can see it down here. It's the color as well as the intensity. So while the moonlight becomes weaker, the daylight becomes stronger, and we have this nice shift from bluish tints to crimson sky. Now the camera, very important. I didn't want to have everything so static. Let me show you a little trick. So I find my end frame and my start frame. And now here is something that is really cool. If you see that, I'm just scrubbing. Can I play it? So what you see here is very important. What do you see? Let me show you. Here's our focus point, right? The center of the dial. And then we go here and see how little has traveled. It travels from here to there. It's a very stable and a very deliberate choice to keep this area stable, while everything else is moving a lot. Look how much bigger the clock becomes, but how stable the center of the dial is. And that subconsciously guides the viewer's attention to that area, because it's an area of calm, and we seem to be drawn to that area. So try to stabilize the frame around your subject of interest. This is really important. All right, let's get rid of all this. We just give Control-Shift-E, linear extrapolation, so the camera won't start and stop. It just keeps going. And it will do this from the beginning of the shot to the end of the shot. I think just slowing down the animation a bit. Another cool trick is by placing the playhead here at a frame that you want to use as a pivot in the timeline, and then use scale. It will scale the keys away from your playhead. Super nifty trick as well, so you don't have to jump into any graph editor, a curve editor, and shift keys around individually. And look at this. This looks nice. It's a nice subtle camera move that does not draw attention to itself. Beautiful. So I think with that, it's time to render.